Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to the Home Front. My name is Michelle Posey. We are here again today with a lively bunch of women. This is the place where we're allowed to have free discussions. We're not that other view where they cancel you. We like to speak the truth and speak it openly because that's a gift from God.
Please don't turn off the show just because you heard the word view.
Oh, yeah.
I know it brings up bad memories.
Bad. It's like traumatic.
It makes my face do this weird thing. I'm like,
this weird, gross thing.
No, but there's that meme that said if you've tuned into this show and it's a picture of the ladies, you might need to be compensated for whatever.
Yeah,
I think
that's
pretty
funny. That's funny.
So here's my question to start us off today.
No.
You're going to go around, tell us your first name, and then, okay, what would the title of your biography be?
Uh-oh.
We'll start with Al.
Harder and harder.
Always me.
I like to put you on the spot.
Okay, I would probably be Dynamite comes in small packages.
Oh, I love that.
So you, and I would buy it. I would download
would?
that on Amazon.
Dynamite comes in small packages. I do plan on writing one. And then once I run for Congress, it'll be from kitchen table to Congress. So.
Love it.
Love that.
You heard it first here.
But that'll be a while,
awesome.
so it's fine.
That's next year?
Cool.
You said next year?
I don't know, we'll see.
Oh, you like how I did that?
it's on the table.
You like how I did that? Next
Well,
year?
I'm Demi, and well, let's see. I think mine would be more like looking back what I've learned.
Oh, that's good.
Ooh, I love
Looking
that.
back what I've learned. There's freedom in that.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah.
There's healing in that, too.
Ooh, that's
freedom.
very good.
Yeah.
Freedom and healing.
that
I would
be
read that.
mine. Yeah.
I wish I could have one as good as yours, but unfortunately I'm not a small package. Quite tall, actually. I'm Brianna, and I think the title of mine would probably be Grow a Pair 101 by Brianna Posey.
And that would fit you so much.
Gen Z relationship advice.
Yes.
I'm Tanya, and I think mine would probably be the unfinished morning coffee.
I like that.
Oh, I
that
love
should
that.
be a TV show.
I just, every morning I go, I even wake up extra early just so I can sit and have my coffee, but it never
Never
fails.
gets finished.
As soon as I get to that much, my kids are, Mom! And it's like, okay, so that goes down and I can't drink cold coffee.
I get it.
I can see a little
get
short
it.
film from the perspective of the coffee, like,
Yeah.
still sitting
Like
there,
looking up,
and the fly that almost lands in it.
Yeah.
And,
Wait for me.
That's so cute.
oh my gosh, I love that.
Can't
you
wait
guys
to have
are.
that problem.
Oh, it will. It will.
It's a good problem to have.
It's a good problem to have.
I just
You
pop mine
guys are
back in the microwave.
That's
Or
so
that
real.
drops some like ice
is
cubes in it.
so
It's
real.
iced coffee now.
Yes.
It just
That's so real. My coffee always gets cold, and I'm like, it's
Oh,
fine.
I
It's
can't do
fine.
it. Ugh, no.
It has to be hot
Has
coffee.
to be hot.
You guys are all
Unless
so
it was
sweet.
made on purpose to be cold. It's like a
iced
mind
coffee.
thing.
You're a
with
coffee
me.
snob.
I
I love it.
I'm Italian too.
I love it.
What'd you call it?
A coffee snob.
Coffee snob. I am too. I can't. No, thank you. You guys are all very sweet and very thoughtful with your book titles. So,
Oh God,
and
what's
I-
yours?
no.
well, so I'm up. We're mad, a lot of us, about
Yes.
what's taken place in our country and what's been done to our people in this country. And so I was going to say, my autobiography or my biography would be. I didn't start it, but I sure will finish it.
Ooh, I like it.
You know what I thought of? Yes. Like the powerhouse of the cell, all that, or whatever.
The what?
Powerhouse of the cell, or is that?
South.
No, cell.
Cell?
Isn't that a saying? I don't know. I've heard of that before,
Yeah.
and I was thinking powerhouse of Michelle.
Oh, that's sweet. Okay, I might have that.
Coffee, sass, and gangster rap.
There you go. Coffee, sass, and gangster rap. Gangster rap. It does something
Play
to your
some
soul.
jazz.
It just does something to me.
I love it. I love it.
Play some Lil Wayne.
For those of you that don't know at home, we were joking. Allie, on her way into the studio today, said she. What did you say?
Oh, I had a gangster rap with my coffee this morning.
Gangster
so
rap with your
tread
coffee.
lightly.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lil
So
Wayne
we're all
might
like
come out.
tiptoeing, like, okay. I love it.
Lil Wayne might
Don't
come
tread
out.
on me.
Right?
Well, we have a great lineup today. We always do every day. It's you never know what you're going to get when you turn in. We're kind of like Forrest Gump that way. But we have an amazing doctor who's going to join us later, Dr. Pierre, Kory. You can go ahead and show his book, The War on Ivermectin. Guys,
So
this guy's been the leader in fighting. He knew early on in 2020 that just the innate sense of a physician to ask the questions, and when you try something and it's not working, shift and try
Yes.
something else. And he just knew everything that these three-letter agencies are telling our physicians to do is anti-medicine. It's not even science, because the first step in science is to question. So he's going to be on with us later. Don't go anywhere, because you'll have that later. To spark the conversation a little bit, I wanted to ask you ladies, I don't know if you're aware, but former CNN, Clinton News Network, the former CNN anchor,
News Network. I love
Chris
it.
Cuomo, who doesn't love a Cuomo, came out and admitted,
Oh, the people that are dead.
he admitted, I am taking ivermectin. I've been taking ivermectin. What are we going to do with that? He just shamed everybody for like 3 years for even taking it.
And then
now,
like no apology. He didn't even freaking apologize.
Hey guys, by the way, I'm just a narcissist. You knew what I meant, narcissistic liar.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were saying you were like.
No,
No,
of course.
Kory,
You were anything but. Yeah.
no, I would give those terms to him. I mean, how does that
Well,
make
he did it with the mask too.
Yep.
I mean, they were all saying, "Oh, wear your mask,
Yeah.
and stay away from ivermectin," and yet all of them are behind the scenes taking off their mask while they're doing their bicycling, but yet we all had to conform.
Tell me you're a paid
So-
shill without telling me you're a paid shill.
A what?
Paid shill. It's like just an empty vessel.
Yep.
Just,
Who just does what you're told.
regurgitating what someone is telling you to say.
It's a new phrase for her.
But in
Write
his,
that down.
in his interview that I watched the other day, she'll give you the Cliff Notes. In his interview that I was watching,
That I understood.
in his interview that I watched the other day, he said, I'm just starting to ask a bunch of questions now.
Oh, that's good.
And I wanted to
About
say,
time.
Yeah.
it's good. But here's the thing: you're a journalist.
That should have been your
That's
first
the
thing.
first thing you do is ask questions. When it used to be, I would watch something on, I don't know, 60 Minutes or something, and that the first thing the person would do is take the narrative and ask the other question, because they just wanted to make sure. You have to test things. You have to test
Yes.
what it's founded in, what it's rooted in, and anything that's truly scientific and evidence-based does not care about being questioned. Why do our journalists not question anymore? It's like they just regurgitate the talking points.
Fired. Done.
Like
Fired.
Donald Trump.
Fired.
What was that? You're fired.
Yeah.
Fired.
You're fired.
Yeah. I mean, people's jobs were on the line. They still are. So, what are you going to do? You're going to be honest and not keep your job, and your family goes without food.
Well, that's what Laura Logan did.
I know,
She
but
gave it
it's
up
a struggle.
because, she lost everything and literally had to start from scratch all over again.
Yeah, but who really, out of all these people we're talking about, who really wants to, they don't want to risk that.
But why don't you want to risk it?
Right.
Because
I
if you
did.
open up and you
I
say
did.
something, right, what is the likelihood that other people will back up like, you know what, she's making sense? Just like you said, backstage when we were talking about COVID and masks, and you took your mask off, and then someone saw you do it, and so they were like, well, I'm going to do it too. Like, what the heck? And
Yeah.
take that mask off, right? It takes one person to say something or do something, and then it takes that leader to then lead others.
Right.
And I have a lot of respect for her because she did that.
Yeah.
And everybody else cowered back like she's got a set of balls on her.
Yes, she does. Yes,
I'm just
she
going to
does.
say
She
it.
does. Laura
And she
Logan.
backs it
Bigger
up.
than most men.
And I
I'd
know
say.
some people may like her, may not like her because of her vulgarity or whatever. Let me tell you, so she is more woman and more man than most people I know
Yes.
because
That
what she
part.
backs up when she says what she says.
Yeah.
And I'm just throwing it out there.
Laura Logan is she's one of a kind.
But she did.
But you see also what she's been through. I mean,
Of course.
So, and that's not just even with the masks or with the vaccine. That's even what we're sitting here talking about.
Yeah.
Right.
What it costs to be able to sit. Yes, we say we want a program that's free and unfiltered, right? But what the cost of that is
What does that look like?
we're fortunate. We already know these women, and they don't care. They're not backing down from anything. But that's very scary. A lot
She
of
could
people
try if
where
you
they
want to.
work. A lot of people where they work, they can't do that.
See, but I mean, I would much rather be fired and
Than
lose
dead?
everything.
Fired than dead for the vaccine.
Right. I
Right.
mean,
And then, that's.
But all of it. I mean,
Yeah.
all of it. It's all of it. I
Like
would much
risk
rather
versus-
lose my livelihood than to sell a lie. I just, it doesn't fit right. It
That's
doesn't feel
just
right.
not
I
a lot of
just,
people.
I can't do it.
I mean, if you always like play it safe, then like when you go to heaven, what are you gonna say? Oh, I'm so glad that I never took a risk. I'm so glad that I.
There's no reward if you
Yeah.
don't take a risk. I mean, you take a risk when you walk outside your house, when you wake up in the morning, you put your foot out of the bed every day. Like, that's a risk in and of itself. So, what are you really giving up then?
No matter what, we're all going to the same place. We all have the
Right.
same ending. So it's like, might as well live your life to the fullest and be honest. Live an honest life.
There is a lot of reward in standing up for what you believe in and for truth.
But people don't like to feel uncomfortable.
Life
You're
isn't
right.
comfortable.
You're right.
But choose your
But
uncomfortable.
I'm just, I've
Life is
watched
hard.
this.
I know.
I've seen
I
it.
have to.
I mean, it
Iron
is like,
sharpens iron.
Ooh.
It takes that rough edge to continue to have that friction in order for you to be sharpened, for you
I
to be
know.
a
I
utilized
just-
tool that's going to be worthy of use. So what good are you ever going to be for the society as your civil duties? What are you going to offer if you're just this dull, boring, let's just play it safe. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm afraid of what's going to happen. What are people going to think? Who cares about other people's opinions? Get up and fight for what you believe in.
What legacy are you leaving behind?
Speaking up is hard and being silent is hard. So just pick your hard.
Right.
Yes.
Pick your heart.
Ooh,
Pressure
pick
And
your
builds.
grow
like
from
that.
there.
Pressure
And what I
creates
love-
diamonds or it breaks them down into dust. So which pressure are you trying to
Right.
fulfill, you know?
And what I love about what Tanya's saying is that, and I get this as somebody that's running for office, knocking doors and talking to people, there is, and maybe rightfully so, a sense of apathy.
Yes.
You know, like things are too far gone. What can I do? I'm just one
just one
person.
person.
It's all a mess. I don't even know where to
Absolutely.
be. So there is that reality to it. I like the fire that y'all bring with it too, because obviously you didn't settle for that. You guys went out and did something anyway.
What do you
You're
have
still
to lose?
But let me ask this, okay? So we all have, besides you yet, we all have children.
I have a cat.
I know.
Okay, but you
keep
don't
doing
fight for
this.
the American right of your cat. do
Well,
you do?
Well, I mean, do you think I do?
I
Then
don't
yes.
know. Maybe. But I mean, that to me, that was my why. My why was, seeing my children go through what they went through.
Right.
They were, with the mask exemption form filled out, they were kindergartner, brand new to school, was put in by the window with the window open and told I'm not even joking. I can't really share a lot of the story because it makes me, but that's
Livid.
what was done
Yep.
to him. And he was told he was not able to play with any of his new friends.
Kindergarten.
Okay, so this is my why.
Yeah.
And
my earrings off.
no, I know.
Take my shoes off.
Until the third day of
Right.
school, he ended up showing up when I picked him up in my back of my car with a mask on.
Oh.
Because he looked at me and he said, "Mommy, all I want to do is play with my friends." Freak. That really just, that's my why. But there's a lot of people out there who didn't have a loss during this. They didn't suffer a loss. They didn't see somebody suffer enough to say, I need to stand up. So realistically, when you talk about, like, people are like, what can I do? What can one person do? I never got into this thinking I would make or
Right.
move a mountain at all. I never thought I would know Dr. Kory or you
But that's
ladies.
why I say stand up and say something. Would you have not said anything and you be where you are today?
But if I was a 22-year-old or 19-year-old or 20, even my son who's 22, my oldest, he doesn't go out and vocalize any of this. That you don't do something to stand out like that until you lose. You see something, you see a loss.
Yeah.
And it affects you. And I think that's why I always thought, like, people eventually wake up when they start vaccinating their kids and they see their kids getting sick. I thought, for sure they're going to stop at that point. But now they've been so conditioned to believe that, it's not the vaccine. And I'm sure we'll get into that with Dr. Kory. But I've really thought a lot it this before.
Well, and
Maybe I just like to fight. I don't know.
Somebody very, very wise told me recently that it's not until it's really right to your doorstep that a lot of people realize
50
it's
feet
time
in
to
front
fight.
of you.
So
what's it going to take?
I mean, that's the question I
not
want you
now-
to ponder during
Right.
our short break. We're gonna take a real quick break. We are feisty today.
Oh, man.
We're gonna have
Yep.
Dr. Kory on. There'll be more of the home front after this. Stay tuned.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, and I'm here to tell you about my new product from MyPillow. Towels that actually work. Watch this absorbency test. Here's another towel that we randomly went out and bought. Here's one of my towels with the nice design. I don't know if you can see this, but you could line a swimming pool with this. I mean, this is crazy. Get rid of it. Towels that actually work. What a concept. I'm interrupting this commercial to let you know you can get our 6-piece My Towels, regular $69.98, now only $29.98. Or you can save 25% on our brand new kitchen towels, made with the same technology as our famous My Towels. Also, we have bath sheets, bath towels, washcloths, hand towels, and so much more. And the best part, with your promo code, your entire order ships absolutely free. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use that promo code to get deep discounts on all My Towels. And for a limited time, your order ships absolutely free.
A lot of people are having great success with a weight management program with Bella Trim, but it's just a tool. In terms of ingredients, Chromex or chromium picolinate improves the actions of insulin, so you have better glucose management, and in addition, it promotes fat utilization. Fat utilization, or fat burning, is also a feature of metabolate, which are 2 botanicals that stimulate a switch called AMP kinase, and so you tend to burn fat, reduce belly fat or visceral fat. Who doesn't want that? Metabolate has the ability to stimulate satiety or reduce those cravings. That's really very, very important. And it does that by raising GLP-1 levels. In addition, we've addressed the microbiome by using prebiotics. Healthier microbiome, better weight management.
Hi guys, thanks for staying with us through the break. Listen, we're going to stay right on topic with ivermectin and basically the cancel culture that has followed ever since we said, hey, there's a real affordable drug that I'm hearing is working wonders. Somebody that has led this way, really led the way ever since 2020, he's been consistent and he's been a fighter, is Dr. Pierre Kory. Dr. Pierre Kory was one of the founders of FLCCC. But more importantly, he also testified. He testified to our Senate, and he called out our government agencies for not allowing doctors to do what doctors do best. We basically let our 3-letter agencies tell us how to run healthcare. I want you to watch this short video. It's just a little highlight of Dr. Pierre Kory.
We are fighting against Big Pharma. They have controlled and captured our health agencies. Every single policy that they have issued out of those agencies the entire pandemic was written by the pharmaceutical industry. And that is a war on repurposed drugs. We've known now for 2 years that there are cheap, safe, highly effective, and widely available medicines that can treat this disease. That information has been suppressed. We are in a war of information. That's why we need you. We have to get this critical information out to save people. People are dying. They are killing us with censorship and propaganda. They are manipulating the minds of millions. Most of the healthcare system, many of my fellow physicians are completely brainwashed into believing that there is no treatment.
Ladies, I want to welcome Dr. Pierre Kory to the home front. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, it's a pleasure, guys. It's an honor. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You know, a lot of us, as we learn more about you and your fight and what you've been fighting for, it's hard not to get emotional. And I'm sure you hear this over and over, Dr. Kory, but there are true faces and names behind those people who died unnecessarily because they wouldn't allow these patients to try off-label medication for something they said our family members were going to die of anyway, right? Tell me a little bit about, first, when this first happened, I know I saw your video of you in December of 2020 testifying before the Senate. What were you noticing back even then in 2020?
Oh, I think you guys will be surprised at my answer because, you know, when I look back, I have to tell you, my awakening retrospect was awfully slow. I mean, you just showed a clip of me at the DC rally, which was January of 2022. You go back to December of 2020, when I gave that testimony on ivermectin, I mean, I didn't think I was going to get a ticker tape parade, but I thought that would be very welcome information and it would change the trajectory of what was going on. And that's not what happened. I mean, I started to get attacked and I started to see hit jobs in media, and I still didn't think that the whole world was corrupt, and then my paper got retracted the next month after passing peer review. I did this whole review paper on ivermectin. I show the data from all around the world, and then that gets retracted in the most bizarre and unprecedented way. And that's kind of when I started to settle in on the fix was in. Like there was, like Brett Weinstein says it really well, like you can't see it, you can't feel it, but you know that there's something big out there that's controlling this. And I started to get that sense that we were up against a huge force that was controlling things and that was really going against us. And that's remained true to this day. And I only know it more deeply with each day that goes by. I mean, we're literally in that, like I talked about, we're in this huge propaganda censorship war where those in power are literally, manipulating what we think and what we do. And it's been quite the, like I said, awakening. I mean, the world that I thought I lived in was very different than the world I think I live in now. I lived in a very pleasant world back in 2019, where the New York Times told me everything I needed to know. The medical journals were giving me the best science. Like our politicians were trying their best. Anthony Fauci was, a well-meaning public servant.
Sure. Yeah.
Oh man,
Definitely.
Who's the highest paying?
Well, and Dr. Kory, you would be somebody that you think they'd want to listen to. Your specialty is in pulmonary medicine. You were, correct me if I'm wrong, but weren't you boots on the ground right away in New York City?
Yeah, or almost right away. So when the pandemic hit, I was the chief of the critical care service at the University of Wisconsin, which is a major academic medical center, huge research funding, all that. And I was the head of the main medical surgical ICU as well. And I spent, from when we first knew it was coming, which is late February, early March, until I went to New York City, which was late April. I was working, constantly preparing for the onslaught. Like in Madison, Wisconsin, we didn't get our first patient until like April 6th. So from like early March to April, I was working with other clinical leaders, preparing schedules, schedules of reserves if the frontline guys went down and got sick, because we were like anticipating 40% of people were going to, get sick and miss work. And that was a crazy time. But some stuff happened at the University of Wisconsin, and it actually happened around our official treatment protocol, because I was on the committee to develop a treatment protocol. And I'm an expert at intravenous vitamin C, and I knew how important it would be for advanced lung injury. And I managed to get intravenous vitamin C on the official UW protocol. But if you guys want to hear the little tale, what happened was my chair of medicine committed scientific misconduct. I know for a fact it was under the behest of the dean of medicine, the dean of the medical school, because they found out that vitamin C was on the protocol. And by the way, the dean of the medical school at the time is a psychiatrist. And he basically forced the clinical leaders to get rid of IV vitamin C from the protocol. And when I found out what they were doing, what they happened, I resigned. That was the final trigger for me to resign. I was already almost out the door because they were just doing supportive care only. And I was trying to tell the team, you guys got to use blood thinners, you got to use corticosteroids. And my chief was telling me, there's no randomized controlled trial for that. You're going to hurt people. And I'm like, do you see what these people are doing? They're landing on ventilators. They're not getting off. They're all deteriorating. They're not being treated. And I was up against so much resistance. I said, I'm gone. And I went and volunteered at my old hospital in New York.
That's an incredible story. I mean, what a miscarriage of misconduct and unethical behavior. I mean, your story is just incredible. What inspired you to actually take that leap of faith and come forward and speak your truth? The truth that you knew was effective for treatment.
Well, so it's who I am. I mean, I went into medicine, and when you finish medical school and go into residency, you have to choose your career. And there's kind of three paths. You can be like what's called a research, a research scientist, where basically most of your work is doing research with grants. You can become a clinician educator, or you can go into private practice. And I actually thought I was going to go into private practice, but I became a clinician educator. And I'm just going to say, I was really good at it. Like I was really good at teaching. I won major awards and I loved teaching. And so that's always what I did. And so when COVID came, what inspired me was I was a pulmonary critical care specialist as the world was getting enveloped in a pulmonary and critical care disease. Because you remember that first wave, I mean, it was insane. Where I was, it was like we were filling ICUs with people with identical x-rays, advanced lung failure, 100% oxygen. I mean, it was just crazy. And I was literally at the peak of my career. I was 50 years old, and I'm living in a time in history when suddenly there's a global pandemic, which is my specialty. Didn't hit the cardiologist, the endocrinologist. It was literally my specialty. And so I said, game on, and I also have to credit my friendship and partnership with Paul Marik. I mean, that guy's a beast. I mean, he's got the biggest brain, the biggest heart. He goes after stuff too. And he and I were buddies. We talked every day. And from the first day of COVID, I mean, we've talked since COVID 2-3 times a day. In that first year, it was constantly about papers, things that came out on preprints. So, and then we formed the FLCCC, and literally I've immersed myself in all things COVID and now vaccines for those years. And so as an expert and an educator, I was also given a couple of opportunities. Like, let's not forget Senator Ron Johnson. I mean, if it wasn't for Senator Ron Johnson, you guys wouldn't know who I am, right? I mean, I would just, like I've joked before, we were just 5 guys with a website and a protocol, right? The protocol was getting attention. Nothing would have had. I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for Ron Johnson. I mean, he first asked me to testify in May of 2020 when I told the world that you had to use corticosteroids in the hospital phase of the disease. I was straight on right for that. I think I saved a lot of lives, even though that testimony didn't get as much attention as the later ivermectin one. Ron told me, he said doctors all over the country were writing to him saying, thank you for giving Dr. Kory that voice. We've been using corticosteroids and we're saving lives. And then again, he gave me that opportunity with ivermectin. And I don't know, that second testimony, if you guys remember, I was a little fired up.
Well, and as you rightly should. I mean, and so you have your book, The War on Ivermectin.
Oh, yes.
We're showing it here, but I have to tell you, you diligently said the same thing over and over, and you doubled down on it. I want to know, just out of curiosity, maybe what your reaction is now to those that are like Chris Cuomo that are coming out now and saying, after shaming us for so long,
oh yeah,
shaming people that wanted to take ivermectin. I mean, people like Joe Rogan calling them, horse tranquilizers, whatever. I don't know what he called them. Horse paste. That's what it was. How do you feel about somebody like that now saying they're taking ivermectin?
And they were taking ivermectin. They just weren't allowed. He said he wasn't allowed to say it. Yeah. I'm sorry, but I can tell you how I feel about that. That pisses me off.
I'm sure we have similar thoughts. I mean, so I think a couple of things about that. So number one, I think it's part and parcel of what I'm seeing, which is this slow reveal. I mean, the data on, for instance, the toxicity and lethality of vaccines, that is coming out more and more. I think more people are aware of it. And once they realize they've been lied to on the vaccines, now you have people like Cuomo who's saying that he was lied to about ivermectin. I mean, he used the term misinformed. They misinformed us about ivermectin. No, they flat out lied and tried to destroy that drug. But in Chris Cuomo's case particularly, I still have, I'm really cynical now. I started COVID naive. Now I'm so cynical. Like, I think that's somewhat of a limited hangout for that guy. I think he's all about public relations and how he's viewed. And I don't know what he's up to, but he's probably known ivermectin works for a long time. He said he's vaccine injured and he's on it. You think it just happened last week? No way. We've been using ivermectin for vaccine injury for over 2 years now. So I don't know what he's about, but I think he's finding that maybe the timing is right to start, this, slow reveal of the truth. I don't know. I get confused about that.
Maybe he was just losing so many viewers, no one wanted to watch him anymore, and he had to flip to the good side.
For sure. I like that.
Well, one of the things I thought was so interesting when I watched his interview, he says that his physician, his doctor who treated him all the way through COVID, her family and her family were on this throughout the bulk of COVID.
Yeah.
And then he went back to say, but we just didn't know that it worked. Well, you can't know that it didn't work and also know your physician is using it to keep them, you know,
Right.
to keep them healthy. It's like one or the other. Just this gaslighting is difficult.
Well, that's like the Substack that you wrote on our clinic and myself about the ABC reporter coming in and preaching, you know, in one direction for her news, but at the same time telling me privately that she's nervous about the vaccine she gave her children. So yet she's telling me to my face in private one thing, but going out and doing her job. Same thing I think with Cuomo and all of these guys. They want to make that money, which is to me why I admire you so much.
Yes.
Because you lost a lot. Yes, you gained a lot, but you also lost a lot. And I don't think that, other than in your book, you mention it, but you never harp on that. But to be honest with you, that's a scary thing. I mean, your livelihood was at stake, and 95% of all doctors did not do what you did. And to me, that makes you a hero.
Yes,
For sure.
You know, so I'm gonna say two things about that. So one is I don't totally feel like a hero because every time because when I stood out, I didn't know what was going to happen to me. I never would have imagined that my career would end. I never would imagine that I'd become literally unemployable in the system. I thought I was doing what I've always done my whole career, which is to teach, share the knowledge that I've gained, and that became dangerous knowledge, and I had to pay for it. But I guess the question is, would I have done the same thing knowing what was going to happen to me? And I'd have to say yes. There's no way I would start out.
You have been born for such a time as this, and people that are like you, that speak out and tell the truth, regardless of what the costs might be, are really highly esteemed in our eyes. I mean, it is so difficult and so disheartening to see people that just refuse to step out and say, no, we're not taking this anymore, and share the knowledge that they already have. And so I have a question for you. How do you feel about, now that the information has come out, that the Biden administration has actually worked with social media companies to stifle this information? How does that make you feel? What are your thoughts?
Well, that's been my whole life reality in COVID. I mean, I've been, you know, the FLC, we were deplatformed, delinked, shadow banned. You know, we knew we were up against, you know, powerful forces that wanted to silence us. Then to find out through the Twitter files that literally the government, every single agency in government, were directing them who to silence and how to censor. I mean, that is just an absurd perversion of our country. And the fact that you can actually hear politicians try to make the arguments that was okay to protect people's health because where misinformation is, it's absolutely so revolting and infuriating that literally there are Americans, politicians who are actually trying to defend the censorship by the government. And it's
I think
absolutely
that would be a reason to expel someone from Congress, right?
They should be, for sure. For sure. And, you know, one more thing though, like, you know, I think you mentioned before, like, you know, I lost a lot, but I also gained. And, you know, I actually came through COVID and my career came through okay. Like I was able to start a new career. I'm now in private practice. I have a wonderful private practice where we treat long COVID and vaccine injury syndromes. And also I had the FLCC to support me. And whereas like there's a lot of doctors that you don't hear about. They don't have, like, for instance, I have a little bit of a public profile, but there are doctors who spoke up locally and in their hospitals and lost their jobs, and their medical boards are going after them that you don't hear about. And I've been involved in defending some of those. And those folks, like, they lost jobs and didn't have anything to support them. They didn't land someplace good, and they're at risk of losing their careers. And keep in mind, they're doing this to send messages. I mean, they want like you talked about that journalist, right? Who's saying something privately, but would never say it publicly, right? A complete coward and a hypocrite. Absolutely. Think of the vast majority of doctors. You think that I'm the only doctor who knows that ivermectin works? You know how many doctors in the system probably suspected it works or knows it works, but were quiet, didn't use it, and won't speak out. And now, I'll have you guys know, tomorrow is my final hearing with the American Board of Internal Medicine. Where they're going to take away, and me and Paul have the same hearing. It's actually, we're side by side defending ourselves. This is going to be interesting. But they want to take your certifications.
Yeah, that's the same thing. I even reached out to you we were talking about our local hospital here, Sarasota Memorial Hospital, and no doctors would get up and stand up to this hospital board. And I remember talking to you about it, and then I got Dr. John Littell to come out there and stand up and talk about how he had treated everybody with ivermectin, and he was ranting and raving, and at the end of his speech, he basically got booted out of the hospital. And then the same thing that's about to happen to you started happening to him with getting rid of his board credentials, and then he had to fight for it again. So that's a big thing, and that's where you're right. They do try to keep doctors at bay and make a lesson out of others. But unfortunately, more people do have to stand up for our rights. There has to be Dr. Korys and Dr. Littells everywhere.
That's so true. Dr. Kory, we're gonna take a quick commercial break. Can I keep you after the commercial break?
Sure.
Awesome. All right, we'll be back with more of the Home Front. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Sounds rolling. All 3 cameras. We're good. Aiming speed.
Is there any regrets that you have in life? I should sit here and say, yeah, I got a lot of regrets. But when I look back on my life and I understand the lives that were lost, I'm sitting here with you. And I can tell my story.
Former National Security Advisor Lieutenant General Michael Flynn pleaded guilty today to lying to the FBI.
He was one of the most respected generals in the military.
He was, by definition, the most dangerous possible person for Donald Trump to hire.
Brilliant military career, serving 33 years.
Why was he being so elusive?
Mike Flynn told the truth and faced life in prison.
Every American needs this historical DVD keepsake. Flynn delivered the truth, whatever the cost. Hand signed by General Michael Flynn, one of America's most treasured military heroes. Order now at the Patriot TV store. Go to Patriot TV, click on Store, and grab a once-in-a-lifetime chance to own a treasured piece of American history. And get your own personal download link to watch America's most talked-about movie, as well as a DVD hand-signed by General Michael Flynn. Use promo code PTV at checkout to get special savings. The Patriot TV store. Incredible savings and a secure, hassle-free shopping experience.
Hi, welcome back to the Home Front. My name is Michelle Posey. We have the wonderful Dr. Pierre Kory with us. Guys, it's not too often that you get to meet somebody or interview somebody who has made such an impact personally in your life. Dr. Kory, I don't know if you know this or not. Well, you probably wouldn't, but I had intense arguments, and we'll call them discussions, with my dad's physicians when he was hospitalized because I had read reports early on. I had seen some of your clips earlier on, and I just knew to stay engaged and to really try to advocate for him. I was told that by asking for ivermectin for him early on, that was quote unquote a Trump drug. And that I was crazy that that's not the course of treatment. He later went on to pass away. So what you're doing is so personal to be able to stand there and fight. You really give us hope for the future. I want to ask you, is ivermectin, is it easily available now? How did that end up with your fight?
So I don't know because, well, here's the thing. In this country, we have a system of compounding pharmacies, right? Independent, not owned by corporate behemoths, usually, individually owned. And compounding pharmacies have a long history of being friendly to alternative integrative doctors. And I would say that on average, 99% of compounding pharmacies will fill a prescription for ivermectin or hydroxychloroquine, no questions asked. Retail pharmacies, I don't really know because I do not use retail. I've left corporate medicine every way, shape, or form. I don't know if that's changed, but it should have, because that FDA settlement, right, from a month ago, that was a big deal, guys. The FDA had to publicly admit that they had no business saying anything negative about ivermectin, and that's what the pharmacists use to not fill. They're like, the FDA didn't approve it, blah, 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 all this nonsense. So maybe it's different.
I heard about it.
Remember that thing on social media where it says, seriously, y'all, you're not a horse? And Dr. Kory, you have a picture on your, where is it, with you next to a horse after you won that lawsuit?
Oh, that's funny.
He's funny, too. He's also very funny.
I love it. Dr. Kory.
I had to have a little bit of fun after these 4 years of just insanity.
Dr. Kory, you said what's next for you? You're opening up you have your own practice. I understand you're helping to treat those that are vaccine injured, which is just another group of people that are being gaslit right now. They're not being listened to.
And there's so many of them. So yeah, no, I've had my practice now for 2 years in February. So we're getting up to like 2.25. And, we've seen, I think, last count, 12 to 1,300 patients with either long COVID or long vax. I will tell you guys, 70% of our patients are long vax, meaning all of their chronic problems started after the vaccine, not COVID. And that's a much bigger problem than long COVID, although long COVID is an issue. And we've learned a lot. I mean, looking back to what I knew 2.5 years ago to, what I'm doing now, we're learning all sorts of insights and therapies, but it's super complex. It's a really difficult disease in terms of mechanisms and finding what works. But we work with patients, we keep trying and we keep treating and until we get them better. And it's hard to get people 100% better, guys. I got to say, if we can get them to 85% of what they were, that is a huge success. Many, it's incremental improvements, but we support those patients, and there's so many of them. And unfortunately, I can't take insurance, have to charge fees, and this kind of care is really expensive. Like people attack me for being a grifter because they see what we charge. People have no idea what's behind the scenes. Like you guys have a clinic. I mean, we have 15 people working for me, schedulers and nurses. We have to do so much follow-up. Our patients are really, I don't want to call them needy, but yeah, they have lots of needs. They need a lot of support and follow-up. And I think we do a really good job, but it ain't cheap.
Yeah.
So I actually have a quick question. A very sweet friend of mine just lost her brother-in-law to, I think it's ALS, and they contracted that from getting the vaccine in Canada. And there was apparently no reversal. There's nothing supposedly they could help this gentleman. And he I think she told me he was about 40 and he is now gone up to heaven to be with our Creator. And I mean, for someone, let's say, who was younger or older, is there a way to reverse this situation? Because from my understanding, ALS is not an easy thing to, there's nothing to live with.
I've not heard of ALS reversals. You can maybe slow the deterioration. I've had, I think, so far 3 ALS patients that came to me on whatever the 2 system drugs that they're on. And I just have to admit, I don't think I helped them appreciably. That's a horrible disease.
What about those that have cardiac problems, like blood thinning, that they have to take daily medication to thin their blood since they've taken the vaccine actually twice? I know
microclots. It's called microclots.
Right.
They're everywhere.
No, I will say.
That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, blood thinning is a major part of our treatment trials in my practice. I would say maybe 60% of people have like a really potent, profound clinical response to blood thinners. And we usually do it for 6 months. Then we'll try to titrate down to a little bit more safe level. We have, knock on wood, we have not had a major bleed or problem yet. And there's a reason for that. I think it's because all the patients are hypercoagulable. So we're actually kind of bringing them more towards normal rather than truly thinning their blood. We get problems with, nosebleeds and bruising at times, and we'll decrease dose a little bit, but we've not had a major problem. And boy, we've had patients really, really respond. And so it's a big part of therapy, but you guys got to understand the average doctor is too scared to put someone on blood thinners without a lot of evidentiary support, like randomized controlled trials and all these things. And so, you take a risk, but we explain to our patients what we think the risks and benefits are and fully informed consent. And we also share our experience, and our patients trust us. We're like, listen, this helps a lot of people. And so we end up doing it. But I can tell from like our FLC conferences that most doctors are very apprehensive because they're too afraid. They think it's too high risk. And we've been finding out it's not high risk. But anyway.
Not for those patients, because they now have, like in layman's terms, they now have really thick, clotty blood. So he's bringing them back to normal just by giving them something that would normally super thin out.
Thin the blood. Yeah. That makes sense.
And what are you seeing? Like we have a panel here of women. We're all different ages, right? So we have.
I'm the youngest.
We even jokingly. We jokingly say we have a Gen Zer, right? She's 19 years old. So what are you seeing? what are you seeing, or what's the medical community seeing as far as any repercussions reproductively? Do we even know what that's going to cause from taking the vaccine?
That's a great question.
I think that is probably one of the biggest impacts of the vaccines is on, and this is so censored and suppressed, this data, but I mean, if you guys know who Jim Thorpe is, right? He's probably the most outspoken OB-GYN, and his paper showing the adverse effects, it's massive. It's massive. And then, Steve Kirsch has gotten some whistleblowers from like fertility clinics and labor delivery, the stillbirths, unprecedented numbers of stillbirths, really dropping fertilization rates, in IVF clinics. And, one of the things that me and my co-writer, Mary Beth Pfeiffer, we published a lot of op-eds, and we've done a bunch on excess mortality, rising cancer rates. Birth data tends to be a little delayed, but I got to tell you that last year I was looking at data, there was precipitous drops in birth rates in a number of European countries, but like large drops, not the small drops that we've been seeing over the years. But we haven't done the deep dive into the birth rates, but we know this has a catastrophic impact on menstrual cycles and fertilization and pregnancy outcomes. Yeah, well, the data is going to come out more and more.
And it's also, they don't even know if it would be carried generationally, like in innate ability to, produce. So, that's awful. And we won't know that for another 20, 20 years. 30
Absolutely awful.
My question for you is, are you in favor of Nuremberg trials 2.0? Because this is like up there with that.
I mean, of course. I mean, this whole thing that the government carried out was a massive, massive assault and violation of rather easily understandable biomedical ethical principles that we've supposedly held dear to us. And that was the thing. There's so much things that, earlier when I told you guys the world that I thought I lived in is not the world that I didn't know the world that as it really was, but I literally thought that biomedical ethical principles were the guide stones to everything that we did. And then literally overnight, it's like someone ripped open a curtain, like they were gone. They were gone. Like people just stopped thinking about ethical principles to guide their behavior. And we coerced people into getting this experimental vaccine across the world in the most egregious ways, threatening livelihoods, threatening education, and by burying all of the adverse effects. And then, the other thing that Peter McCullough says this so well, the long-held regulatory standard when you launch a novel medical product or treatment is any adverse effect reported should be considered to be caused by that treatment until proven otherwise. Yes. What did we do with these vaccines? Every adverse effect reported was considered not caused by the vaccine until proven otherwise. So the entire behavior of a society and societies across the world were flipped overnight. And that just tells me, and I'm going to finish here, tells me that I was living in a fake world. I was living in a world that I thought I knew how it operated and how it should operate. And that trust in the institutions inside of the world was just absolutely demolished now. I don't trust anyone anymore. I'm skeptical of everything that comes from official and authorities because of what they've done. They've lied, censored, propagandized, coerced, mandated, and they've led to massive excess mortality, which continues today. I mean, I finished my third op-ed on excess mortality. People are dying like they've never died before, especially young people. And it's, like Ed Dowd says, it's a democide, death by government. We live in a dystopian world.
That's so true. I can just imagine our viewers, because our viewers, Dr. Kory, are typically those that, like you said at the beginning, they've sensed something's awry, but they can't quite put their finger on it. So where can our viewers find out? I know they can get their hands on The War on Ivermectin. They can find that book that you've got. Where can they find your Substack and more information about you?
Yeah, so I think the two main places with my book, I believe that book to be a part of the historical record. I mean, I told the truth, eyewitness, firsthand, I had a front row seat to everything, and I was documenting it. When I decided to write that book, that was in mid to early 2021. I said, once I figured out what was going on, and I figured that out from reading an article called The Disinformation Playbook, which I think all of your readers should read. That Disinformation Playbook article, which you can still Google, basically told me what was going on with all of this stuff, the censorship and propaganda. But the book is modeled after that article, and I documented everything. And then the other thing is my Substack, which I write on continuing medical issues, and mine's called is Pierre Kory medicalmusings.com, or just search for me on Medical Musings on Substack, and those are the two main places.
I love that. Dr. Kory, thank you so much for what you're doing. Thank you for your
Yes.
bravery, and we're going to keep you in our prayers here at the home front because we need more ethical physicians like yourself. Thank you so much.
I appreciate it. You guys keep doing what you're doing. Excellent work. Let's all keep fighting for the truth and for everyone that's suffering. And it's a lot of sadness, but the best thing of everything that's happened to me is meeting really good people. My network of colleagues, collaborators, advocates, just the best people in the country. And so I include all of you guys.
Oh,
Thank you so much for that, Dr. Kory. God bless you. Thanks for joining us on the home front.
Thanks. Bye now.
Bye. Wonderful. Well, you know, I wanted to take a brief moment because I know we had our guest on through remotely, so I didn't want to interrupt him, but you had said something, Allie, about Nuremberg Trials 2.0,
yeah.
and I know Brianna kind of said,
I was like,
What is that?
so maybe you can help.
So
English
Nuremberg, the
workers.
Nuremberg trials, it's a code, right, that says that they have to. I really wish I should probably just
Okay,
pull it
so
up, but
so in
was
during the time of the Nazis,
Right.
when they did a lot of experiments on the Jewish people,
right.
Years later, after that war ended,
All of the European countries came together to put the doctors on trial for crimes against humanity.
what they did. I mean, it was basically abuse, what they did
Right.
to people. And so when you have the medical community doing things that's almost torturous or definitely treasonous to their own people and their government, that was the Nuremberg trials. That's what happened. So we're saying that
Nuremberg Trials 2.0.
2.0.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Does
So
that kinda make sense?
there are 10 points or 10 sets of rules of conduct for human experiments articulated in 1947 in the trials of Nazi doctors and bureaucrats convicted. Let's see if I can pull.
And that's what's happened. That's exactly what happened. And we're still, unfortunately, America is still allowing, not all Americans, but a good portion of them, are operating in fear. And so they're still retrieving or receiving vaccinations that they don't need. They absolutely do not need it, but yet they're still going out to the pharmacies to get their free vaccinations, you know, while they're getting their normal vitamins or supplements and prescriptions.
Well, now they're doing it flu and COVID shot.
Yes. Almost like a
Together.
2-in-1.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's
And
all experimental. There's nothing that says this is what this will do. It's all experimental.
they're
and I'm not
supposed
part.
to-
I'm not part of the. What do you call it? The lab rats. I'm not a lab rat.
Right.
I
But the
refuse it.
They're supposed to
brainwashing,
provide
it's the
informed
brainwashing
consent.
that I think kind of really messes with me, seeing people like that. I can tell you, there was a patient at our practice, obviously no names, but she was 21 years old. She had received 2 shots. After the second shot, she started having chest pain within 12 hours, okay? 12 hours, chest pain. She comes in to see us, and, you know, we kind of go through the whole thing, and did you get vaccinated? Those are questions that we ask.
Right.
When? And yes, and 12 hours ago.
Wow.
Okay, so obviously, it's a reaction to the vaccine.
Absolutely.
And where I'm talking about the brainwashing, she completely stormed out of there saying, absolutely not.
What? That's
it is
wild.
not the vaccine.
So these.
So they're just so.
It's what the media has done, what our government has forced our media to do, and the social media tech giants to do is completely criminal, and they should all be held accountable and locked away in like Guantanamo somewhere. So I'll just run through a few of these. Voluntary consent: the human subject must give their voluntary consent. Results: for the greater good of society, the experiment should yield results that are good for society and not random or unnecessary.
So let me stop you there. The first one was
Right.
what? Voluntary
Voluntary
consent.
consent.
Okay, so if your boss says to you, you're losing your job on this date if you don't
get
is that
vaccinated.
voluntary
No,
consent?
it's not. It's coercion.
It's coercion.
They did that in the military. All 5 branches. They
Based
had to.
based on animal experimentation, the experiment should be based on animal experimentation and the natural history of the disease or problem being studied. those were actually outlawed, right? They told them they couldn't
There was
do
no
the studies on
animal
animals, and
We
PETA
were
was
the
like,
animals.
yes,
We were the
We
animals.
are the
We were the
clinical. We
animals.
are the clinical trial.
Avoid unnecessary suffering. The experiment should avoid physical and mental suffering and injury, and no experiment should cause death or disability.
But if they don't blame it on that,
Right.
Yes, like that
The
one.
cognitive
it's not-
dissonance.
there's no problem with
Right.
it.
If they turn the blind eye and they're like, oh no, that's not it. Then
No,
this,
it's what
right.
they're blaming it on, and I was hoping Dr. Kory, he touched on it a little bit, was he was talking about long haul COVID and long haul vaccine.
Yeah.
There's a difference there. It's long haul COVID is people who are unvaccinated who have not fared well after they've gotten COVID. Long haul vaccine is they've been vaccinated. Now the difference that a doctor, besides Dr. Kory, would tell you is that regardless, we're piling everybody into this, anybody who's been vaccinated, we're not saying it's long haul vaccine, we're saying it is long haul COVID. So now, just like they were saying before with this step, this is how you brainwash people. Remember, before the vaccine was supposed to keep you from even getting it.
Yeah.
And then they
no
changed
vaccine
it.
has ever done
Right.
that.
So now they've changed the wording of that, saying like, oh, it's not vaccine injury, it's actually your COVID that caused that injury.
Right.
And even people who said, no, I never got COVID, they're like, you must have.
Yeah.
Because you wouldn't have that.
Right.
Well, you know, if people don't have, really anybody like a Dr. Kory on their side, they're, and let's say their family's all pro-vaccine, that's a hard life to be in.
Yeah.
It is.
You
And,
know?
and that brings me to, as we're wrapping up our segment today, that brings me to just what I want to say to the viewers, because we all have loved ones and family members who, we all come from different walks of life, different opinions, different political beliefs, different faith beliefs. So obviously we would have different medical beliefs. A lot of people, I believe, this is just my opinion, I believe a lot of people, American people, will do something for the greater good. And I think a lot of times something like the COVID vaccine was sold to people as you doing your part. Nobody wants to see their neighbor or their loved one isolated in an ICU and eventually die. Nobody wants to see that. So everybody would do just a little something, wouldn't you? And if that's you today and you're hearing from Dr. Kory and others on our panel and it's starting to make you question, I want to give you the permission today to be okay questioning. It doesn't make you a bad person. Us individuals who came up here with our own sort of our own ideas of, you know what, I don't want to be tested on and something's wrong here. That doesn't make us awful people. That doesn't make you awful people for taking the vaccine. What we want to do is engage in an open dialogue that says, you know what, a lot of things have happened that are not right. And I will step in the gap to make sure you don't have to get injured anymore.
Right.
And that's what we're about here at the Home Front. Guys, I think our homework is going to be to go get the war on ivermectin. Also visit his Substack, which I wrote, Pierre, Kory, Medical Musings. Visit the Substack. Guys, read it for yourself. I mean, do your own due diligence. It's your body, what you put in it.
You have autonomy.
That's right. We're going to go ahead and pray, but I want to thank Cape Hayes Tavern here in Florida for providing us with food and nourishment. They're always wonderful to us. Ladies, let's pray, and we're going to pray for those that are injured as well. Father God, we just come before you, and we're so thankful for the Home Front. We're thankful for Patriot TV. We're thankful for our viewers who give us the ability to freely discuss this. Lord, I thank you for warriors like Dr. Pierre, Kory, and Tanya over here and her staff at We the People Clinic. Lord, it's hard to step out onto this ledge when you see something going wrong. Father God, I ask that you continue to give these brave warriors, these speakers of truth, give them all the protection and all the wisdom that they need to continue to drive this message that we cannot allow large pharmaceutical companies to run our medical industry. Father God, I pray that you take your leaders and lift them up, not just in politics or in education, but also in our medical field, Father. I pray for those who may have gotten the vaccine, Lord, and aren't sure what to make of this. Lord, you are the author of truth, and I know that you can speak to each individual right now watching this at home, and you can help them to understand what's best for their body. Father, I pray for the healing and for the truth to be exposed with regards to this whatever it was that we just injected into people. Father, we thank you and we praise you in Jesus. Wonderful. Guys, you can find more about us and watch all of our replays at thehomefront.tv/replay. We hope to see you again tomorrow. We're here Monday through Friday, every day on Patriot TV. Enjoy the rest of your day. We'll see you next time.